This video is brought to you by TT Combat. Hi, welcome to Gamers Web. My name is Mark, and in this video I'm going to take a look at painting some of these wee beauties. These are the Veer Myn from Mantic Games for Warpath, Dead Zone and Firefight, and I've got loads of them. I've got tons and tons lying around, but they normally tend to have like a yellowish ochre coloured outfit, and a lot of the times when I've tried to paint them, I've not got very good results. I've not been very happy with the using Army Painter or even Vallejo to get decent results on them. So I was looking around for something else to try and fill that gap and sort them out. Recently, I did a quick look at the paints from TT Combat. I'll leave the link up in the description up here. And the guys at TT Combat, I reached out to them and they sent me some samples. And they asked me what kind of colours I'd like. And I asked for yellows, and they didn't disappoint. As you can see, I've got a massive bag full of various yellow colours here from TT Combat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you briefly how I paint my Skaven. Sorry, I will start again. I will not paint my Skaven, I will paint my Veer Myn. Space Rats, Rat Boys. And I'll leave links in the description to all the paints and everything, and the recipe that I use, to quote Troy from Sonic Sledgehammer. Okay, so I've got my palette. These are quite cool. I got 5 of them for £3 something from eBay. Sorry, Amazon, including a collapsible bucket and 2 bags of cheap brushes. Brushes are cool because I'm going to use one of these now because they're actually they hold the shape quite well. So that was like £4.25 or something like that. Okay, so my first up is the Sienna Wash. This is the first paint that I'm going to use, and I'll explain what I'm going to do with that in 1 second. But first, I've got to actually show you what I undercoated with. Right, so if I can reach it. Right, so at the moment, TT Combat, as I said in my last video, are having a sale on their spray primers. This spray primer was £5. It's 400ml, and this is the Strigroi Flesh. And they're very good. They're really, really handy spray primers, and they go on very, very well. The coverage is brilliant. So I basically got 5 models, built them, and just popped them onto the bases, and then took them outside and give them a quick spray of the primer. It's a neutral colour. It's midway between white and grey, so it's kind of a, I'd say like a creamy white, not as bright as Wraithbone, but I like it, and it turns out really well for using on the yellows. So that's what I'm going to use. But first things are first, I'm going to use the Flesh Wash, which is the Sienna Flesh Wash. And as you can see, it comes in a little bottle with one of these really cool spouts on the top. You see the ink going to the top of it. Just don't need too much of it. Just want to put some into my palette. Like so. That should be enough for the miniatures. And what I'll do is I'll leave the paints that I'm using currently at the side, so you can see what colour I'm using. Like that. So get my brush, just dip my brush in, making sure I don't go all the way up the bristles to the ferrule, which is the metal part, and then I'm just going to basically slather this all over the model, like so. Now, the reason why I'm using a brown wash is to bring out some of the details that have been obscured by using the my brain's gone, by using the primer. Not very many details, but occasionally things might get missed or they might get covered. Right. Okie dokie. Right, so what I'm going to do is very, very quickly cover this all over and drop it into the paint pot, because I'm not used to painting over something else. I'm going to paint over my camera because I don't have a tripod set up that I can get to work properly for over the shoulder, because I don't physically have the space for that kind of stuff, unfortunately. Right, so, and again I just drop it on the floor. I'm not doing a very good job today. Right, so there you can see it's covered brown, leaving there to dry. Now I could, if I wanted to, use another wash instead. So TT Combat also do Umber Wash. So I'm going to do one in Umber, and then I'll do one in Sienna, and we'll see which one looks best. So this is the Sienna one. Let me just pop a bit of this in. And this is a darker wash, you can see straight away. I've got a cold at the moment, so please forgive me. As you can see, this one is much darker. And I'm just going to change my light so we can actually see a little bit better. If I can get it to come over without everything knocking over. There we go. Almost. There we go, that's better. Right, so as you can see, this is a much darker wash, and it goes on really well. I actually like this one. I think I'll prefer this one. But I'll do two using the dark base wash and the light base wash. Hopefully by the time I've finished doing this, the miniature will be ready for its next step. If not, I'll just get the hairdryer out and dry it with the hairdryer, and then come back and we'll have a look. So you don't need to be too careful when you're doing this, because we're getting this wash over everything, and it goes on really, really well. It's not causing any issues at all. It's not pooling, at least it's not as I can see. It looks very good. Right. Okay, so that's our first guy done, and our second guy. So this is the one with the Sienna wash, and that's the one with a much darker wash. So I shall put those two there for one moment and leave them to dry for a few moments, and then we can come back to them and do the next steps, because it's both the same for the next step. So I shall be right back. Okay, so I'll let them to dry a few minutes. They're not very dry yet, but we'll go on to the next step anyway. So the next paint is to get the base foundations on, which is going to be the base yellow, which I'm going to use Cornish Tartan mustard, sorry, cotton tarnish yellow, which looks like mustard. It's a very ochre looking colour, and it goes on really, really well. So and I'll show you a little bit more about, talk a little bit more about the paints themselves. Right, so the paints have these these spout tops, which are really, really good. But what I would suggest is every time you finish using a paint, and before you put the lid back on it, you just get a wee cloth and then just wipe the top of the lid like that. That way you don't get any paint sticking in the lid. And you can tell the lids from the TT Combat from other lids because they've got a little triangle on top of them. So this has been shook up. I'm just going to put a little drop into my palette. I don't need very much. And as you can see, just by looking at it, it's a very rich mustard coloured yellow, and I really like it. So I'm going to put that one there so you can still see it. So again, it's just a question of getting hold of your brush and finding a place where to start. So I'm going to actually start on the back of the outfit, and I'm just going to basically drag my brush down, and I'm going to paint the back of his armour. or space suit. And this is the one that we first did, that was done with the Sienna Wash rather than the Umber Wash. Now, I'm only going to be using TT Combat paints. I'm not going to use any other manufacturer's paints, even though I've got loads and loads, because I want to see what effect I can get just using TT Combat. And at the moment, I'm very pleased with them. Right, like that. Okie dokie. Right, so I'm just going to pause for a moment and let the paints dry, and then I'll come back and I'll do the next step. I'm going to use the same Cornish Tartan Yellow on the other miniature, and then once those are dry, we'll go on to the next step. So I shall be right back. Okay, so the next step to do is do the flesh tones on the Veer Myn, for which I'm going to use Halfling Skin. It's quite a rich Caucasian looking skin, a bit yellowy, but it works wonders for what we actually need. So I'm just going to put a wee drop of this onto my palette. I don't need too much of it because, well, basically, I don't need too much of it at all. Right, so there's a wee drop of that going onto my palette. I've left my paints in order so you can see what I'm using. These paints are, I think they're 17mm, they're either 17 or 18mm. And hold on a second, I'm just trying to read the back. 17mm, as you can see on the back of this palette here. They are 17mm, and they're very, very good. They cover very, very well. Okay, so I've got the halfling skin onto my brush and onto my palette, and I'm just going to pick up the first guy because the second one doesn't seem to be drying very quickly because I didn't give him long enough to dry. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to very quickly just paint all the areas that should be flesh. So his arms, his muzzle, and any other details such as his tail and his feet. I'm just going to paint those quickly using this cheap brush. You know, it's a size 2, but it's holding its point quite well. And I'm going to redo his arm using the Cornish Tartan Yellow that I've got sitting on my palette, which I left out deliberately because I just noticed that his arm is actually armoured. So I'm going to do it the same colour as his armour. I'm going to do his muzzle and his ear. Now, of course, being a rat man, he could be any colour, but I'm going for a traditional Skaven-esque look for my army. I'm going to have them, well, these part of the army anyway, I'm going to have them looking more like Skaven in space, because that's what I've been waiting for a long, long time. And of course, Games Workshop are never going to do that, so it's up to companies like Mantic, who do a great job and produce us proxies that we can use if we wanted to do a Skaven army in space. But I don't want to do a Skaven army, I want to do a Veer Myn army because Veer Myn are cool. And they're quite nasty in combat in Dead Zone, and they're lethal in combat in Firefight, and I imagine they would be the same in Warpath when Warpath's released, because the tactics are horde tactics. They overwhelm people, and they're also very, very fast. A bit more about TT Combat. They don't just do paints. They are one of the biggest manufacturers of MDF buildings online. They sell lots and lots of ranges of MDF buildings, which are all really, really good. I've got quite a lot in my collections. I've got from Wild West to wrestling rings. Speaking of which, TT Combat also have their own range of miniature games. So at the moment they've got They've got Rumble Slam, which is a wrestling game, which is really good fun. And I've got a full review of Rumble Slam here on Gamers Web, which I'll leave the link up so you can check that out. They've also got Dropship Commander and Drop Zone Commander, which one of them, I can't remember which one, is undergoing a second edition at the moment. And they've also got Carnival, which is a medieval Renaissance type game where set on the streets of the canals of Venice, which looks awesome, but I've not actually played Carnival yet. And they've also got another game that's just come out called Full Tilt, which is a game where you play medieval halflings in a jousting tournament, which again looks very, very good fun. And the figures look fantastic, and the scenery actually doubles as part of the game. So as well as using the scenery for cover and to look visually good, the scenery allows you to hide your cards from your opponent and other such things. It looks very, very good. So I'm hopefully going to be getting my hands on that very shortly, and we can have a quick look at that and see how we go. Right, so I'm just basically slathering this on because I'm going to give it a wash anyway, which will tidy everything up and bring everything back. I really didn't leave this long enough to dry, so important safety tip: if you're doing videos and you're not very used to doing videos in this way, give yourself some time and learn to be patient. I'm always telling my son to be patient and to relax and slow down, because he tries to do everything at once. But I should probably take a leaf out of his book sometime and, you know, sit back and just enjoy myself. Right. Okay, right, so that's the base coat's done on those two, even though I've just picked it up by this tail that I've just washed. Well, never mind. So what we're going to do now is leave these to dry for a little bit, because they do need to dry. And then we'll go on to the next step. Okay, time for the next step. This is just using TT Combat's black paint. This goes on really matte. It's very, very good. I don't need very much of this again. So I'm keeping my original colours on the palette in case I need to do any touch-ups, which I will do, because that's the nature of painting. And let's just crack on. So again, don't need too much paint on your brush. I'm going to go back and do the arm on this guy in a moment, but I want to do the black first. Okay, so I'm just going to paint all of the trousers black, like so. And I'm going to leave the belt, but I'm going to do the hoops on the belt like that one. In black. And these Veer Myn tend to have the back of their, I would say ankle, but it's a bit too high for an ankle. This bone here sticking out on the trousers. So I'm just going to leave that part like that. And as you can see, it kind of goes down like that. And then do the same on this side. And it's covering really, really well. It's going on very, very nicely. And then I'm just going to give the gun itself a quick coat of this black. And I'll do the same on the vambrace that holds the gun in place, like so. And then when I come round to actually doing the weapon, I've got an undercoated base to work from. Okie dokie. Alright, so that'll do for the moment. And then I'm going to tidy it up a little bit because there's bits that I can't actually reach with the miniature so far away from my eyesight, and I've got very poor vision, so I have to bring the miniature closer to me to actually do so. And I've just cut his tail, so but we're getting there. As you can see, he's got the base coats on, and then it's a question of moving on to the next step. I'm just going to repeat that with this model, and we can then move on. Okie dokie, right, so welcome back, folks. I'm gonna do the next few coats and details and stuff in a moment, right? So I've given them thoroughly time to dry for all the coats and stuff on both figures, and let's just have a quick look. So this is the one that was using the lighter wash, and this is the one that was using the darker wash. As you can see, the yellow, there's not really too much of a difference between the yellows. This is the darker wash, this is the lighter one. For some reason, I think it might be because the room's cold. The black hasn't completely dried on this yet. It could be because the room's cold, because it's very, very cold in this room right now. But we're going to crack on. Okay, so next step is to do the fur. So for the fur, I'm going to use Hairbender Brown, which is another nice, deep, rich brown colour from TT Combat. And again, only need a little tiny drop in my palette. Don't need very much because I've not got much to cover. And this is going to be used for the whiskers and the fur details on the models. So basically I'm just going to do his chin, the hair on his chin, and on the sides of his face, like so. And then, as I say, I don't need very much of this. As you can see, there's the whiskers on that side of his face there. Okay, and I might do a little bit on his feet. So there's a bit of hair coming from his feet. And then do the same on this one here. This is, you get a variety of heads with the Veer Myn, but these are the ones that I like the best. They look more like rat men because they actually have quite a lot of detail on them. There are some of them, like this one, which, as you can see, has got a pig's like snout on the front of it. I don't really like those, and unfortunately I've got lots and lots of those. But these are the ones that I tend to like the most because they look most like rat men. Obviously, if you really want to, you could always use heads of Skaven. There's always the 3D printing option as well. Right, okay, so I'm going to do that on both models. I've actually done it on that one, yeah. So I'm just going to leave those to dry for a second, which shouldn't take too long, and then move on to the next step. Okie dokie, right, so we're getting to the finishing stretches now. So I'm going to go back to Sienna Wash again, which is the lighter of the washes, and I'm going to put a wee drop of this on my palette. Not too much, so I don't really want to waste it. And I'm going to use this quite generously over all the flesh tones, including the tail. So over the arms. Right, what I'm going to do is, because I forgot to say this, I'm going to stop at the hands. I'm not going to go over the hands. Now, obviously, it's entirely up to yourself which way you do this, but when I paint rat men normally, I don't tend to do the hands. If I do, I just dab it on and dab it off straight away like that, because I want to try and have a bit of a definition from the hands. Then go over his tail, like that. And it doesn't matter really too much about being really neat here. I'm just wanting to get it covered so it brings out a bit more of the definition. And I'll do the same on the other one. And this one I'm not going to go down to the hands, I'm just going to go onto the flesh that's the bare arms that are exposed. You know, this guy's really not skipped arm week, hasn't he? He's got massive arms. So, and you could always, instead of using a brown wash, which is what I'm using here, don't forget the back of the head, you could always use the Hairbender Brown to do this part. Okay, so that's those two done, and I'm just going to leave those now to dry, which again, it won't take very long, and then we'll get on to the next step. Now we're almost at the final step at the moment. I'm not the best painter in the world. I'm not the worst, but I'm not the best, and I have really bad vision problems. I'm awaiting an operation on both of my eyes, and I find painting really relaxes me, and I don't like being stressed by painting, and these paints are really helping with that. They're very easy to work with, which if you've got vision problems, you'll understand exactly what I'm saying. Okay, so I shall be back in a few minutes, and once those have dried, and we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so off camera, I painted some of the details on both of the figures. I painted the piping on the harness, on the armour itself, because I didn't really want to actually do that on camera because I can't see. I have to get quite close to me. Okay, so last couple of paints now. I'm going to use green, which is, if I can just squeeze a little bit out into my palette, this is Succulent Green. This is from the basic paint set, along with the black that was from the basic paint set as well. This is a very vibrant green, really nice and ideal for what I want to do. Now, I'm only going to use a little drop of this. I don't need to use very much of it, and this is just going to go on the fuel canister, or I don't know, power source of the ray gun, just to break up the colour a little tiny bit, and then on the back, on the canister, on this poison launch, I think. And of course, I'm going to use this as well on the bases once I've finished the models off, because I'm just going to use flock, and I find using flock a lot easier than sculpting bases, and a lot quicker. Okay, so that's Succulent Green out of the way. Now, I'm not going to pause the video because this part's not going to take very long to do either. Last major thing to do is pick out all the metal details using TT Combat's Gunmetal, and I've now run out of little wells, so I'm just going to use the top of my paint. Now, I perhaps should have shaken that up a little bit longer. We'll see how we go. I don't think I've actually shaken the paint up long enough, so I'm just going to wipe that off my palette and put fresh paint on. Now, normally I would use my nail varnish shaker, but my son was playing with it and I don't know where he's put it. So there we go, that's much better. Now, you only need a little tiny bit, because this is just to pick out the metal and metallic parts. So I'm going to try this on camera if I can. Okay, so we have the belt buckle. Sorry, it's not in focus. So his belt buckle's been done, and I'm going to do this little part here, and then I'm just going to very quickly just dry brush with the, I'm not even going to bother taking any excess paint off. I'm just going to overbrush on the weapon itself, not even bothered taking any of the excess paint off. So it's more of an overbrush than a dry brush. In fact, I'm actually just going to do like that. And that's one guy done. And then again, the good thing I like about the TT Combat paints, as well as the coverage, is they have a nice, they don't tend to use as much because of the way the spouts are designed, so you don't end up wasting a lot of paint. I can use a little tiny drop, and then that's that done. Okay, so that's the silvers. Now, more or less I could call those done as they are, because they're going on the battlefield. But what I'm going to do is got two last colours that I'm going to use. And once again, these are from TT Combat, because all the paints I'm using are from TT Combat. I'm going to use White Knuckle Flesh, which I'm going to use to do the teeth and highlight the skin that hasn't been covered. Now this is a very pale flesh colour, almost to the point that it's white. It's very pale. Like that. And then just a little tiny drop on my brush, and then I'm going to paint this guy's teeth. Again, it's not very easy to do when you're having to stretch over a camera like that. And I'll wipe off the excess on my brush, making sure I don't wipe it onto another colour like I've just done. And then I'm going to paint just roughly in the middle of the tail. If you look at rats' tails, rats tend to have like a worm-like segment on the tails, one part that tends to be thicker. I'm just going to paint that like that, and that guy's done. And again, I could actually just highlight the toes with this by just basically dragging it over. The same with the fingers, the hands. Just use it to highlight areas. I'm just going to use it on his teeth. And what I can do is, once again, I can just use that part. Whereabouts is it on this one? There we go. I'm just going to use the paint to highlight certain areas so they stand out a little bit more, like that. Maybe on his ears. Okay, so that's the basic models done, more or less. So next I'm going to base them, and I'll show you how I do that, and then we'll crack on with the next section. So whilst I've still got the green paint on my palette from doing the highlights, most of the figures are dry now. I'm going to base them before I do any further highlights, and to do so I'm going to use this, which is Jarvis Scenics Flock. This one's Spring Meadow Mixture, number 70. It's got lots of blues and yellows and greens in it, and it goes really, really well with the yellow that we've used on the models themselves. So dead simple to do. No messing about with rollers or milliput or anything like that. Just basically paint quite a generous helping of green paint on all the surfaces that you want the paint to adhere, the flock to adhere to. Now you can use PVA glue or super glue, some people use. I don't tend to use super glue because I find it, I end up making a mess when I'm using super glue. Okay. Alright, and I'm just going to move the palette out of the way and show you exactly how I do this. Dead simple. Put my wee tub in the middle, make sure I've got paint everywhere I need it to go, and then just get the model, dump the model in, like so, and then just shake off the excess, and then it's just a question of tapping the excess, like so, and there we go. One flock base model. If you find that you've got little bits that are like this bit at the back that don't seem to have much of the flock on, just put a wee bit more paint or glue onto your model, and then just put it back in again, and it covers up. That's one, and I'll do the other one. Okay, now it's a lot easier to paint off camera than it is to paint on camera, and in total I think to paint these two miniatures has probably taken about 15 minutes to paint both of them. They're not going to win any golden demons or anything like that, but seeing as we view them from like 3 to 4 feet away, and normally they're because these are horde models, they're going to show up. They're going to look quite good on the table, and that's the way we can actually go. Right, so those two are done. Now it's a question of tidying up little bits, and what we can do, once we've also got black paint on our table, is I'm just going to very gently and very carefully do this, because I don't want to ruin the rest of the model, because it's still literally just been done. I'm going to get the black paint, and I'm just going to go around the rim of the base with black paint like that. Now obviously you don't need to paint the bases the same colour that I'm doing. You don't need to use flock. You can do whatever you want to with your bases. This is just for convenience, and so they match the rest of my army, like so. And you just do this all the way around until you've covered the rim of the base. I've not got very much paint left in my palette, but the good thing about this, schools have thought about using wet palettes and dry palettes, and I prefer to use a dry palette rather than a wet palette, because it gives me longer to work with the paint, I think. I don't like using wet palettes very much because I find them really difficult to use, although I've got some very good ones from Strigroi, which I'll leave a link to the description of the video. Sorry, the video in the description. Okay, so I'm just going to leave these two guys. I'm going to finish that guy off camera, and I'm going to leave these two guys to dry, and then we'll come back and have a quick look. Okay, so this is a final look at the model. I'm just going to move this out of the way so I can have a quick look at them. It's still a little bit damp because I'm rushing things to try and get this video finished, but we'll have a look at the progress so far. Now, I've not done any extra detail on these yet. There's the guy with the chem thrower. All I've done extra is just give a wash of Umber onto his, on Sienna onto his helmet. That's that guy. And then this guy here, he's got the same as well. He's got it on his helmet, and that guy had it on his arm. Right, so using the same paints, once everything's dry, because I'm doing this as quickly as possible, you can get some good results if you just take your time. So this one was probably done in about 15-20 minutes without having to resort to filming, and as you can see, it stands out quite well. All I've done is picked out details in black and a little bit of silver here and there, and I've given him a bit more prominent teeth coming from underneath his respirator. And overall, I'm very pleased with the way the model's turned out. And what I will be doing with this one is I'll be highlighting the back of his unit, his uniform, his van brace, chest plate, whatever you want to call it, with Tuscan Yellow, which gives the same colours as the one that I've just shown you, and I'll do the same on the other one using the Tuscan Yellow, but I'm going to do that off camera rather than do that now. Okay, so that's a quick look at using TT Combat paints to paint my Veer Myn from Mantic Games. Now, I've got other videos coming up using TT Combat paints very shortly. Hopefully, I might be able to get the format a little bit better if I can find some way of actually focusing on the miniatures rather than having to hold my camera steady in front of me the way I'm doing. Once again, thanks for tuning in and watching so far. If you like this video, please leave a like, because it really does help a lot. And you can get your TT Combat paints directly from TT Combat at the a web address that I'm going to leave in the description, ttcombat.com, and they are very good. My many thanks go to Mike and the guys over at TT Combat for sending me out these samples, and they're really going to help upstep my game when it comes to painting. and I'm going to probably do some videos on using these paints on TT Combat's range of MDF buildings as well, because I've got quite a lot of them. I've got a big backlog of them that I need to finish off for Wild West Exodus. So all that remains to say is my name's Mark. Thank you for tuning in, and no matter where you are in the world, please stay safe, look after yourself, and have fun with your hopefully see you soon.